Hey guys, Angelo Lambropoulos, Director of Lambros Realty here again. And today we're going to do things a little differently. It is the August 2020 Cherrybrook property market update. But as you know, there's been surveys and talks surrounding the development around the 3.5 hectares of government land around the station, in which a lot of you have participated in the survey I've put out there to do our own independent research. So what I'll do, I'll get straight into the statistics of the what's been happening in the property market for August. And what I'll do in the comments section, I'll also put the time as to when I discuss Landcom, the discussions around that. So that way you can skip straight to it if you're not interested in this section as far as the median sales and median price and sales trends in Cherrybrook are concerned. I understand it's not for everyone. So what I'll do, I'll get straight to it. So this for the month of August, we've had 12 registered sales in Cherrybrook. Of those 12 registered sales, the median price has come in at $1,391,375 to be exact amongst those sales. The highest sale of which was at $2,010,000 and 32 days on market, being the average days on market. When we compare this to August last year, there was 10 registered sales, so obviously two less. The median price was at $1,481,500 to be exact. The highest sale price came in at $2,336,000, and the average days on market was 17. So just a bit of background on that. You'll notice that the median price is down 4.2% from last month and 6.5% from this time last year in August. What you'll also notice is, as far as the median price is concerned, it is the worst performing month this year. Now, in saying that though, it's always August recorded the highest sale price at $2,010,000 for this year. So it really was a tale of two halves for August. And I'll break down the reasoning in just a second, because it's like, well, how do you get the highest sale result but the median prices? So basically, look, what it's come down to, stock levels are still low. What you'll find is a lot of these sales, the high performing sales, so the 2 million sale was more towards the early part of August. And what you'll find is around mid-August, I think it was around early mid-August, so around, I can't remember the exact date, but what you'll find is in the media, obviously there was the Tangara School COVID cluster that had broken out, which had also unfortunately spilled over to the apple tree chemist over there. And it was all over the news. Unfortunately, when publicity like that hits the news, it's never a good thing. So, almost, or not almost overnight, instantly, it was as if the brakes were slammed. Buyer inquiry had tapered off. Sellers that were thinking of selling have said, whoa, 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 hold the phone. Let's wait till things settle a bit. And that's why I think you'll find, well, not I think, I know you'll find that the brakes had slammed towards the, mid to later half of August, which you'll notice if you look at the sales volumes, don't take my word for it. Look at the registered sales. You'll see that the higher sales were registered more towards the first half of August. So that is where that trend came about. And look, it still seems as though people are very, the buyer inquiry still isn't coming in heavily at the moment as a result. Again, when you hear coronavirus, Cherrybrook, you're going to stay away, especially when you see it's gone from Tangara to apple tree shops. People start to think, all right, where else is it spread? The fact of the matter is it's all contained now, but until people feel comfortable, that's where we sit. The other thing, so days on market remains at 32 days, which is similar to what had happened last month. And there's 18 homes currently listed for sale in Cherrybrook, which is, I'm recording this video being Friday the 4th of September, which is exactly the same as what was recorded last month when I did the video. So stock levels still remain low. Now, just on that, sorry, I've got notes here, guys, and because I've got a lot to cover and I don't want to make sure I don't miss anything. Just on that, so, what's my gauge and what's my reading of the property market? What would I be doing if I was a seller? What would I be doing if I was a buyer? So if I'm a seller and I'm already listed on the market, I would be patient. I wouldn't be panicking. Again, property markets move in cycles. Again, you saw how easy the brakes can slam, just as easy it can start taking off again once the pressure and around this starts to subside. So if I'm a seller, what I'm looking at doing is, if I was thinking of selling, but I was 50-50 and I had some renovations I wanted to do in the house, I would probably sit there in my house, get the renovations done, enjoy the renovations so you don't overcapitalize, and revisit selling in 3 to 5 years thereafter. So basically you're reaping the rewards of a beautifully renovated home, and you're also putting yourself in a prime position to sell at that point in time when the market's firing again, because inevitably it will. The coronavirus won't last forever, as opposed to getting the renovations done when you're thinking you're selling. By the time you complete it, the market starts to correct again and you've gone backwards. So if you're in that ballpark, that's what I'd advise doing. If you're in a position where you need to sell, I would be monitoring the market very carefully and talk to your local agents out there, and see what they have to say, see what they've sold, have a look at, again, and do your research as well. See the sales they're selling for, how long they've been on the market, to make sure it's in line with what's being said, and then sort of gauge it that way and go about it. An off-market campaign could be a wise thing to do, to put your foot in the water before you actually put it in the public space. So there's a few strategies you can go about, if you're in that position where you need to sell. As a buyer, naturally, if I'm a buyer out there, I'd be hovering like a vulture. I'd be watching properties of interest with a very keen eye, understanding that the ball is very much in my court at the moment. For how long? Well, it's anyone's guess. And then, making a move depending, because there have been some pretty good value buys out there, right? So, I guess it depends where you are at the marketplace, but that's what I'd be doing in short. So if anyone has any questions on that, you know where to find me. You can give me a call. Now I'm gonna, make sure you guys are comfortable. For those of you that are now, I'm transitioning to the Landcom portion of the presentation. So make sure you're comfortable. Grab a nice coffee, a beer, whatever takes your fancy, a tea. Sit back, relax, put me on Chromecast, do whatever you have to do. And now I'm going to talk about Landcom and the plans around the 3.5 hectares of government land around the station. So, as you know, most of us have been involved in the survey, Landcom survey in and around the Cherrybrook Station precinct. And what's been raising a lot of eyebrows and causing concern for a lot of you out there is the fear of the 8-story apartments. Okay. Now, credit must be given where credit's due, and I Landcom, if you're watching this, I do want to say thank you for listening to us as a community, because I genuinely know you are listening. You have invited 30 residents within Cherrybrook and West Pennant Hills to participate in that incubator survey, where you're getting 30 local members. I myself was one of them. For their input, it took about 4 hours, where it was a comprehensive, detailed presentation of the plans, what they're looking to do, their engaging input, and on Monday the 7th of September, there'll be a Zoom meeting in which they will present their findings as a result of my feedback and everybody else's feedback, to see what comes of it. Now, whilst the 8 stories have been proposed, it's not definite, okay? It's probable, but it's not definite. Now, what I wanted to do, and for those of you that have, before I proceed, just on that, the precinct there, the whole idea is to create a mixed-use precinct that obviously facilitates retail. You've obviously got the apartment side of things. The affordable housing is what they're looking at, integrating the natural aspect. I don't know if I said it before, but retail, they're looking, maintain the aspect of the pond, looking at perhaps putting a skate park there, really trying to get that community environment. So I take my hat off, a library, a community center. So they're really giving it some serious thought, putting all options out there and see what works best. And I take my hat off to Landcom for doing that. They're obviously looking at each and every angle to understand what works best. And 3.5 hectares sounds like a lot, but when you're trying to fit that into a confined space, it leaves you with no choice but apartments. Now, before you rip my head off and say, no apartments, Angelo, no apartments. All right, just hear me out and hear me out in my entirety, okay? Angelo does not think apartments should go there. Angelo's research suggests that apartments should not go there, right? Now that we've got that out of the way, let me explain it in further detail as to why. It's not my opinion. I've surveyed, a lot of you out there. It's the question's been put on Facebook. I sent it out to those of you that are on the database. So the questions I put forward, right? So Landcom have come back and their research has indicated, and let me just clarify this, they've used an independent research company. I don't know who that is. It's irrelevant, but the data that Landcom have been provided with is the average household in Cherrybrook consists of 2.3 people. Now, I've been in Cherrybrook since 1987. I've been here for a long time, and I'm sure a lot of you watching this are in the same boat. You'd be very hard pressed to, believe that is the average amongst Cherrybrook, okay? So I put the question out there, and this is my information folder, so thank you very much. This is all documented, so if nobody believes what Angelo's saying, is he just making stuff up? It's all here, right? And you guys know who have reached out to me. So the question I put out as a response to that was, how many people live in your Cherrybrook home? Now, when you look at the 2016 census, it shows there's an average of 4 people per home. Now, it's pretty in line with the last statistics I had on file, which was, not pretty in line. I was sitting at 3.2, but nowhere in my wildest dreams did I think 2.3 was feasible. But again, so what I did is, because I've done this research in only 3 to 4 days, I've tried to be as punchy and target like each different area. So you've got the units, you've got the family homes, you just a vast array of people, right? Because, I didn't have enough time to push through, but it will paint a very similar picture, right? So of the 56 respondents I asked, right, how many people live in your household? When I averaged it out, the average number sat at 3.95 per household, which is well in line with what the census data was in 2016, saying 4 people per household. There's also worth mentioning that some households out there had numbers of up to 10, 11 people. There were households that had, family that would come back and stay with them, grandkids, hence they wanted to keep the space. So there's also that data that's not recorded that's also essential. So when you look at the 2.3 that was given to Landcom, I just don't see it. I'd want to see the stats and figures, and I want to see who they spoke to, because whoever did the market research there, because I'm on camera here. If you're watching this, you're wrong. Sorry. And the other thing I'm not buying is this whole changing lifestyles and people's way of living. It's not changing lifestyles and people's way of living. It's forcing people to live in apartments. Now, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with living in apartments, right? All I'm saying is that's the excuse I'm seeing in and around everywhere to build apartments. And, it's all over the news, right? This isn't me saying it. Nobody's buying apartments, so why are we building more apartments, right? So we've got an opportunity to do something really good here in Cherrybrook. We've got the opportunity to do something different. We've got the opportunity to do something that very few are doing, which I'll put my solution forward, and the solution I'm going to propose later on, I will be bringing this forward with government officials. I will be raising this with the Hornsby Shire Council. I will be raising this with various stakeholders. And again, I'd encourage you to put your comments in the comment section, because this is by no shape refined. I'm not saying what I'm saying is perfect. All I'm saying is, if we're looking at, at Cherrybrook as a priority precinct, and we want to, establish and cater living for a growing population, we need to look at areas not just where the station is, but how does it work as a whole, instead of congesting and clumping everything in that one section. In fairness, it's not Landcom's fault. Like, they've been dealt the devil's card, right? I think, I'd hate to be in their position trying to get this right, to please everyone, because you're not. You're not. So that's the results that came about, right? So no surprises there. People buy in Cherrybrook. It's a family suburb. If people want apartments, there's plenty of other areas to choose from where the apartments aren't selling. And, with all due respect to my beloved Cherrybrook, apartments in better suburbs. That's the fact of the matter. There's apartments in Castle Hill where you've got Castle Towers just there. You've got apartments in Epping, you've got apartments in Beecroft, you've got apartments in St. Leonard's, you've got apartments, the list goes on, I won't bore you. You've also got apartments in Mascot that have had all sorts of problems, and, so there's a lot of question marks on apartment living as well, which I'll get to that in the next point. So enough of me rambling on, I think you get the point. Now, the next question I put out to you out there was, would you buy an apartment in the Cherrybrook Station precinct? Yes, no, or maybe. Now, I'm going to read out some of your responses. I'm not going to obviously, mention your names for privacy reasons, but just so those of you watching it out there, by all means, if you want to take credit for the comment I've raised in the comment section in this YouTube video, by all means, feel free to give yourself a plug. I think you deserve it. And, for those of you that do comment, just be respectful. There is no right or wrong here. It's people's perceptions. There are people that want to live in apartments. Then you've got others that don't. Okay, so, just see where people are coming from. You may not agree with it, but don't try force your opinion upon them, all right? So, of the 82 respondents, I asked, would you buy an apartment in the Cherrybrook Station precinct? 10 of you said yes. Okay, so I'm just looking at my notes here, and what I want to do, from those of you that said yes, I'm going to read just a couple of the comments that came in as to why these people, and for those of you that thinking no may think otherwise. And when I read out the no comments might vice versa. So I've got one here. Hi, Angelo. Yes, my 32-year-old daughter would buy a new unit, depending on price, of course. Having grown up in the area and wanting to stay, it may be an affordable option. She doesn't need nor want a large standalone house. Now, the other thing I forgot to mention is the target market that Landcom are targeting here is the 18 to 39-year-olds, trying to capture affordable housing. And credit to Landcom, because of the respondents that are saying yes, the vast majority are in that age group. So as far as the research there is concerned, definitely on the money. I don't think there's going to be enough to fill the apartments personally. But that's another matter altogether. The other one I've got here, I'll quickly read this out. Hi, yes, we would. Age 40 to 50. So these people in the 40 to 50 bracket. Obviously, people that buy aren't always going to be in the 18 to 39. Love the area, but prefer not to have such a big house to care for. Metro will make it easy for transport, and hopefully shops will be included near the station. This area needs a facelift. Apartments would have great views too, especially those closer to Castle Hill Road. Great to sit on a balcony out at the views. Thank you. Yep. So thank you very much for sharing that. The other thing I want to mention as well is, with this whole affordable housing thing, there's no such thing as affordable housing unless the government's in control, right? And the reason I say that is, if you put affordable housing in the hands of developers or whoever is selling it off, naturally the competition is going to push the price up, right? Now, the only reason you're going to get away with affordable housing now is because there's an influx of apartments and a low price will buy it for you. Um, but if the opposite was true and there was low supply, down the track, well, it's going to put upward pressure on prices because the demand is going to push it up. So I'm not buying this whole affordable housing thing. I'd love to be proven wrong. I mean, if the government maintains possession, I think they're looking at about 5% of that precinct being affordable housing. There's merit to it because, there'll be a waiting list to get in. You'll be next in line. This is the price you pay, blah, blah. That's how it works. It's set. But, once it's out there to the open public, it's a free-for-all, right? It's common sense, no surprises there. So, back to the respondents. So of the 82 that questioned, 12 said maybe. Now, of the 12 of you that said maybe, you were primarily the investors, and you were those that were sitting there going, well, it depends on the build quality and, how things are going there, right? So you were the maybe portion. Now, as far as the no portion is concerned, there were 60 of you, and no surprises there, right? And what the common denominator, and I'll read out some examples here, but basically, a lot of you are concerned about the build quality due to the poor construction standards across Sydney. A lot of you have lost trust in, and fair enough, I understand that. There's also, I think, another area that, I came across one of this in the comment section, which even I had overlooked, but it was a very good point for you that raised it, is as a result of the coronavirus now, there are people that are skeptical on apartment living, and the coronavirus will pass and there'll be a vaccine and we get all that, but I think it will change people's mindset. It will be, it'll always be in the back of their head that what if we're going to lockdown again? I want some open space. I don't want to be, I don't want to be living in an apartment. If I can't move, where do I want to be? I at least want some open space. So and I get that. That's a good point. So, people's way of shifting, and I dare say this as well has slowed down apartment sales as a result. The other thing as well, it's not, baby boomers that live in the suburb would like to stay in the suburb, but downsize into a townhouse, villa, duplex, or a small 3-bedroom home, something along those lines, right? They still need space, they still need backyard, they have family visiting. You got to remember it's a family suburb here, right? And no one buying in the Cherrybrook is keen on apartments either. So, a couple of the responses here I've had from buyers from outer suburbs saying, we're buying here because of the nice, open, leafy nature of the suburb. So, I'll get into it. So these are some of the no responses. Hi, Angelo. Here are my thoughts on today's question. By restricting the target market, they are cutting out a significant number of potential buyers. Agree? As a retiree, 69 years old, I would consider downsizing but have no intention of moving into a box. Hence, size of a unit is an important consideration. I'm a stickler for flow-through ventilation. This is important for general health and also for the prevention of mold and mildew. I've seen many apartments with the latter problem. The only way to achieve this is to have windows in all rooms, including bathrooms, toilet, and laundry. I loathe laundry cupboards. Such impracticalities are happily accepted by young people who do not have much life experience. There are some very nice townhouses in Bella Vista, Essentia, built by Malfa. If I could find a unit or townhouse like that in Cherrybrook, I would seriously consider moving. Okay. I hear that a lot from people as well. G'day, Angelo. Would you buy an apartment in Cherrybrook? A resounding no. Although I am retired, age 75, I spent all my working life in building. I have a trade and a couple of degrees in building and specialized in construction, scheduling, and planning, covering all types of construction, from housing, in brackets, a little, to commercial, industrial unit construction, shopping centres, including 15 years plus lecturing in my specialty at University of Western Sydney and New Zealand University. So this person knows what they're talking about. I have to say I'm totally disappointed with the quality of buildings now, the method of approvals and the licensing process that allows virtually anybody with money to build and control the approval process. The problems currently in the industry were easy to predict. Anybody who buys a building off the plan or from the myriad of building companies now putting up units is most likely buying a problem that will drain them of money due to remedial works. I would suggest that one should only buy a unit that has been built for 10 to 12 years, assuming that all problems or defects would have become evident in those ensuing years. Although corporate body records can be adjusted, modified to hide problems. There are only a few builders I would contemplate buying their units. Interesting. Then got another one here. Hi Angelo, the draft you sent of what we will be built is really nice. So they obviously, this person likes the apartments and the look of it. However, to be honest, I wouldn't buy there, as I don't want to live in an apartment or unit, as I have a child and 2 pets and they need a yard and space. I also don't like having to hear my neighbours. If there were to be townhouses that are not connected with decent space between them and properly soundproofed, I would have considered it. This person's age 33, so there you go, you've missed someone in the market. Over here, no, I wouldn't. To be honest, there's an oversupply of apartments already, and buying an apartment, I have no guarantee I could sell it easily if I needed to. Nor would it suit a growing family unless I bought a 3-bedroom. I would prefer to move a few suburbs over and buy a house. I'm currently looking to buy with my husband, and we flat out don't consider apartments for this reason. Townhouse or villas would be a yes though, as this would be better accommodating for a growing family. My age is 30. Now, last one. There were plenty here, but I'm just reading out a few. The other no. This person's 39. I would much rather a townhouse or even better a duplex. We currently live in a huge open planned apartment in Castle Hill after selling our Cherrybrook home. Our home was too big and couldn't keep up with the gardens and domestic duties. But in saying that, I miss Cherrybrook so much and love this apartment as a temp. But I would ultimately love to live in Cherrybrook in a similar property with a backyard. Okay, so what I'm going to get to, because I've just noticed here, I've got 5 minutes of recording time, so I'm going to cut to the chase. Now, the conclusion is evidence clearly suggests that going about this as a mixed-use precinct dominated by apartments isn't going to work here, right? It has to be all or nothing. Now, hear me out. This is what I propose. I'm not saying it's right, and it's going to be a little rough around the edges and needs refining, but I'd be doing feasibility studies around this. Step 1. The 3.5 hectares of government land becomes townhouse, villas, duplexes, small 3-bedroom accommodation, intertwine the natural pond, the natural parkland. You've got streets around there. They will sell like hotcakes. You will have no problem selling that. I know you're not going to meet the Landcom won't meet the build numbers, but I'll get to that solution in a second. It will solve the problems of off-street parking for the existing neighbouring streets. The commuters that are going to the station can use off-street parking on those streets as a result of the new build. You will have one street that'll be one side of the street no parking Monday to Friday, and the other side you can park at will. Okay, so that's going to solve a few of the parking issues there. Now, number 2. And I've got, as you can see, a whole list of dot points, but unfortunately I'm running out of time. But these are the sort of things I'll be discussing in finer detail with the officials there. The other thing is Cherrybrook Village, Mirvac, build apartments on top of Cherrybrook Village. Okay. Now what that's going to do, it's going to, as part of the revisited stage 2, stage 3 plan, it'll create employment. We can get our gym there. You can get an Aldi supermarket there. You can get a host of other retailers. Underground car parking, which is something that we desperately need in that area, because when it rains, it's annoying to shop there because you're going to get rained on when you're going with your trolley. And the other thing is you're not going to impede on anybody's view because you've got the parklands all around you, and it's actually quite nice to look out of as an apartment, right? Now, in saying that, you're going to, I'd have we look at a shuttle bus service that goes directly from Mirvac Shopping Village to the train station. So if you're at the townhouse development at the 3.5 hectares of government land, you can come back to the shops, from the shops. If you're commuting via train, you can go there. Not everybody wants to use public transport these days. I get it because of the coronavirus, so you've still got that option there. The other thing with the townhouse development at the 3.5 hectares, the villas, duplexes that I'm proposing, it's going to take a lot of the congestion off that main road there. So instead of having 600 people living there, 600 houses, which is going to be 1,800 people living there, you're going to have 200 people living there, 200 homes, which is 600 people. And the other thing is you've got a retailer that's already established at Cherrybrook Village that hasn't properly found its feet because the foot traffic isn't enough, so they've only finished stage 1 of the process. Stage 2 with apartments, right? You'd have the entry into the car park coming in from Greenway Park. It would solve a lot of problems doing that. It would free up the traffic congestion. There'd be a lot of benefits, okay? I'm just quickly grazing through this. I wanted to spend more time on it, but unfortunately I ran out of time. So that is basically, what I wanted to get at. Now, the other thing, as far as building a new community centre on the 3.5 hectares of government land, don't bother. Don't waste the space. Just upgrade the community centre we've got already, right? We're upgrading the sports facility centre at Greenway Park, which is fantastic. Let's finish it off and do the Cherrybrook Community Centre, and let's get an adjacent library integrated. Let's host events. Let's get outdoor night markets. Let's get night movies. Let's get the community buzzing, festivals, right? We'll have the people around to do that and the manpower. The beauty of the library being positioned there is it's walking distance from the back of Cherrybrook Technology, John Purchase, extremely practical. Which brings me to the last point. What about the schools, Angelo? What about the schools? Yes, we will need to build more schools. And the powers that be will need to allocate a site. I dare say this site would have to be somewhere in and around near where the station is. And you may need to rezone. Yes, you will need to rezone, right? But look, at the end of the day, I'm not saying what I'm saying is right. All I'm saying is look at this as another potential option, right? To be a priority precinct, it's bigger than just that one section. Now, I have to go because I'm out of time. Angelo Lambropoulos, Director of Lambros Realty. Put your comments in the comments section. Love to hear your feedback. Let me know if I'm on the right path, anything that we can do better. Let's keep this open and work towards a proper resolution that works within the best interests of us all. Keep in touch.